thing with that too, Warren, and I understand where that car owner's coming from. I understand his frustration, and I agree with it, given his certain situation. Thank you. Sorry, I had a brain fart there.
Sorry,
okay. Warren. No more Taco Bell. Oh yeah, no more Taco Bell, dude. But anyways, oh dang, dude.
So, but let me.
But no, you want to talk about a rules change year to year. The easiest way for a track, and I'm not defending any of the actions, I'm not promoting any of the actions, I'm not saying who's right or wrong, but the simple fact of the matter is, anytime a track's going to make a rule change to a class, it's going to cause a little bit of hurt feelings, a little bit of controversy.
Absolutely.
There's going to be some people upset. There's going to be a financial impact.
Right.
And the easiest place for a track to make a rules change is what we saw this year with Willamette Speedway, Sunset, and Cottage Grove with the tire rule. Mm-hmm. Because the tires are the easiest thing to change. If you say your sportsman car, your late model has to be 3 inches narrower, well, now you've got to pull the whole deck apart. All the sheet metal's got to come off the car. You've got to shorten up your bars. If you make a side height change, well, then you've got to trim down panels, redo your graphics and everything else. It is the easiest and least, in a lot of respects, the least or the easiest place to make a rules change without having a huge financial impact. Granted, I understand that G60s are more than takeoff slicks. I understand that new G60s are less than new slicks. You've got to look at all these factors combined when they make these rules changes. I understand where that guy's coming from, and if I was in his position, I'd be feeling the same way.
Right. Well, here's the thing. He came prepared.
Exactly.
Okay, came prepared. You can't get on a guy for that.
Absolutely not.
And that's great. Here's the other thing. I thought the one thing about all the rule changes that everybody talked about that came out, I thought what the positive about that was track personnel did a good job releasing that early in the off season, earlier than I think they have most of the time to let drivers prepare for what's coming in 2017.
I agree.
Now, it still sucks for that individual driver who has those 64 tires that are grooved that he can't use. On that tire, will it make that much of a difference?
Yes.
I don't know.
I mean,
I just run around on a quad.
Because honestly, I've seen guys run those tires grooved with sipes, and I've seen guys run them grooved and sipe. I mean, is there a big time? I mean, is it going to be the difference in winning and losing?
If it wasn't going to make that big of a difference, why would IMCA not allow you to sipe tires? Or excuse me, groove tires.
Groove tires, right. Siping is allowed.
Siping is allowed in certain situations. But if it wasn't going to make that big of a difference, I mean, when you're grooving, you are altering the tread pattern of the tire. You are creating your own tread. Therefore, you are altering the characteristics. You are hugely altering the characteristics of the tire because everybody knows that when you alter the characteristics of the grip pattern and the tread pattern in that tire, you're going to alter how you transfer the power to the ground, which is the ultimate goal of every racer.
Okay, so I get what you're saying, but my point was, is it really going to cost somebody a championship? Potentially, I guess, in the long run, it could. What's more important, grooving or siping?
That depends on on what tire you're on. That depends on the track.
Right.
Because now there are different ways to, prepping okay, and when I say prepping, I don't mean chemically altering or juicing.
We know what you mean. We know what you mean.
When you prep a slick versus when you prep a G60. Well, how you prep them is based on the characteristics of your motor, your gear ratio, and the track conditions. If it were me and I could prep G60s using siping and grooving,
absolutely,
I would have a set for qualifying. Mm-hmm. I would have 4 more for the heat race, and I would have 4 more for the main.
You're a rich kid.
But if you want to be competitive,
right,
and
on
you
that
can do
tire,
that, I get what you're saying. I do.
Given the characteristics given the rules package set forth by IMCA for the modifieds on a G60 tire, you can't do much.
Right.
So therefore, We
and I think
we
that's
have
just one
a
more
couple
way
sets.
to keep everything on the same page.
and
Which,
reduce
I mean,
cost.
I'm not against that. I'm definitely not against reducing cost. But this is the reason I asked that question, grooving and siping, is because is grooving really that important? Because I can tell you, I know of a driver who has multiple championships, okay, multiple championships in a late model, and his right rear tire, when he would buy it, it wasn't grooved. But he would sipe that tire more than anybody else I've ever seen. And he's won, I'll tell you right now, he's got 3 championships.
And that's the thing is, even with siping, you have a different track in qualifying and in heat races than you do in some heat races and in the mains. Depending on what you've got going on there are different siping techniques to use. And I'm not going to lie. When I was working on the modifieds, I had 3 sets of tires ready to go.
But I understand that.
And
With the G60 tire, you almost have to, because those tires are so sensitive to heat, and then they cool them and they glaze over, and the
Cycle.
traction. Yeah.
Well, and you look at it,
And we've seen that what we're talking about
Exactly.
cost multiple drivers, multiple features last year when leading and get a caution and the tires go away. And
I know was it 50 lapper?
Yeah, I mean, it happened to you guys. But
Yeah.
it's one of those deals that G60 tire is so different. Guys are still figuring out what works best with them. I don't know if the rule change is going to be so dramatic that it's going to cause guys to,
Everybody's going to be on the same playing field.
And
That's bottom
it's
line.
It's like the
Exactly.
racetrack. Everybody's on the same track. Everybody's on the same tire.
I would.
What was the purpose of the rule change then? I mean,
That I don't know. I don't know why IMCA and the tracks.
can we speculate? What,
I wouldn't even want to speak to that because there's so many different theories on that out there right now. I think it would just.
it's something I'll call Paul Vetter. I'll call Paul and see if we can't get an answer on why IMCA did that and
Went to the G60.
oh yeah. Paul'd be good to have on the show.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a character.
We'd have to have a censor button with Paul.
We need to get his wife on as well.
Oh,
She's a
man.
sweetheart.
She's worse than he is. You want to talk about some fun people? And you'll meet him at Bakersfield next year. The Vetters. Oh my God!
Awesome people.
I will tell you that a former Moxie employee had quite the experience with Paul last year.
Oh,
It
boy.
was pretty awesome to watch because it was one of those deals, and it wasn't done in a bad way. It was actually done in a good way. But with what that person said, and the person that he got the look from was from Paul's wife.
Paul's
You were
wife,
there.
yeah.
It was one of those deals where if looks could kill, lightning would have struck him dead
man.
there. And it's not in a bad way. We're talking about this in a jokingly way, the way it was all the whole conversation. But it was one of those deals where one person says something being sarcastic, the other person replies back with something a little more sarcastic, but trying to sound like he's playing both sides of the fence. And then there was a look that it was just
That just put him in his place.
yeah.
You two boys are so close to death.
Yeah, where it was kind of like we walked out of the door we were in the personal booth of Scott, the owner of Bakersfield, and he looks at me and says, what just happened in there? What, did I say something wrong? And I'm like, no, you cover your tracks just fine.
Oh man!
But it was cool. It was a funny moment, but the Vetters, and we bumped into him at Vegas,
Right.
and from the second they saw us, it was just right back to where we left in that booth, and it was fun. They're great people.
Yeah. He's
Perfect.
very serious when it's about business.
Very.
But when it's not about business, the guy's he's like Brian.
He is.
He likes to throw curveballs and have a good time.
Yeah.
That's what we're all about.
Well,
the racing family. We're all. Let's have fun.
Yeah, and that's what it is. We got to Bakersfield last year, and Warren was there. We're actually in the booth getting ready to go live, and Paul walks in, and his way of saying hi was something I can't use on the air. But I turned back, and I fired with something else I can't use on the air, and he looks at me, I look at him, and we both kind of laugh, and he walks out the door, and Warren and Josh are looking at me like, who was that guy?
Yeah.
And do you guys not like each other? I was like, no, it was my buddy, man.
Yeah.
It was funny, but it's just one of those deals where I would love to have him on, and he'd
Yeah.
have answers. He'd have answers.
He
for
would. He would.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's see if we can't get him on next week or 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I'll
show.
call him up and see if we can't get him on
He
here.
would be awesome for information.
Yeah, he would.
Absolutely.
And he's
Accurate information.
very. And there's a guy with no BS. And when it comes to the rules and it comes to IMCA packages, it's black and white.
Yep. He doesn't.
You know?
He doesn't say, "Well, let me go check my notes," or "Let me go check the rule book." He's got it right there in his head, and he knows it. I mean, he knows it well.
And he's one of those guys. Don't try to cheat in the little area, because I guarantee, Paul, those guys are going to get you.
Yeah, I've seen some emails from Paul. Too.
You don't try to get by with the little stuff, because they're going to find it.
It was stuff that I found on the internet. It was not anything that's been done out here in the Northwest. But I've seen some emails and some letters from Paul posted online. I'm going, okay.
He takes it very serious,
And I
as
don't
he
blame
should.
him.
And
when you're that, you're like basically the NASCAR equivalent, or the Bill France of our type of racing.
Right.
You have to take it seriously when there's tens of thousands of dollars on the line every weekend.
Yep.
You have to sit there
an example
and say,
of that,
"Time
and
out."
I'm not trying to throw Tony Brakel under the bus, because it wasn't done with the intention of gaining an advantage or cheating. They built
on the side.
Right, they built
Yep.
Tony's body, and on the nose, the side panel, they went over there, and this is how technical they were at Vegas. They measured everything, and Tony's side piece on the nose was an inch too long.
Yep.
1 inch, so they had to pull it off, get the snips out, measure it all out, trim it off 1 inch, put it back on, and go all the way back through tech.
So basically, just cut the corner, the top back corner of the side panels on the front end.
Right.
Basically 45 those
Had to
off.
45 those, yep.
Yeah.
Had to
And
pull them
that
out,
was
45 of them, and it was, but that's
the way.
you're talking little stuff. They don't let you slide.
Yeah.
Which I think.
And Tony wasn't trying to pull anything over. It was
No,
just,
and
it was just an
That's a common area out here, up here in the West Coast, in the Pacific Northwest. I see that type of
you know what we're talking about,
a body issue,
right?
all the time. And then it's like
Which truly,
when we had Doug Davenport on, he's a bodybuilder.
Hey, Doug.
I've been a bodybuilder.
right?
When we're talking sheet metal, he's right.
Corey's a bodybuilder.
No, Corey's a wannabe bodybuilder.
At this point, no. But you know what? I did build a lot of bodies at Whitney Racing,
and you know what I'm talking about.
But
you
back
build
then
a
it was
legal,
outlaw rules.
Yeah.
It was a whole different. It was nothing like they're doing now today.
Yeah.
we can sit here, and Doug and I have done it at racetracks. There's no hiding. Doug and I have sat there and looked at cars, and from 50, 100 feet away, we go, "That's illegal."
Right.
And all we do is just look and go, "That's illegal." And
But
he
the
looks
thing
over.
about it,
Yep.
The thing about it was, and this is the thing I do like about IMCA, is keeping everybody honest. Having
Exactly.
a
Yep.
rules package that they're going to hold everybody accountable. It was such a minute thing. I wouldn't have given you a 1/1,000,000th of a second advantage anywhere in the racetrack. I mean, it did not matter, but they said
it is a rule.
right. I mean, they're talking a chunk that was less than an inch cut off at a 45. I mean, it was such a small piece of sheet metal. There is absolutely no advantage. But they said this is what the rules is. This is the way it has to be built. Go change it. And Tony's like, all right, well, we're going to do it. So, and it wasn't just Tony. There was several other
that was just
cars.
one that we happened to witness.
And I know there were at least
A lot.
cars from the Northwest that had that same rules
Well, and
violation.
it was just and it's not a performance advantage. It's just the way the bodies were built. Honestly, there is you cannot convince me with a smaller piece they cut off that front of that little fin that there is absolutely a performance advantage.
We'll
Zero.
talk off the air, and I'll show you the wind tunnel stuff.
There's no way. There is absolutely no way.
You're trying to out nerd me right now.
No, I'm just.
You're
talking.
sitting here trying to out nerd me.
No, well, that's not going to happen. Ever.
You're trying, and it's not working.
There's just no way that little tiny piece can create a performance advantage.
So tell me something. Let's get off of this. But let's stay on the tech issue.
Mm-hmm.
Do Banks and Cottage Grove do tech?
Yes.
They do?
Yes.
Yes, they have tech.
See,
crews.
like when we were at Bakersfield and at Vegas, the first thing you do is go through tech.
Uh-huh.
And the very first thing. And I'm not trying to diss anybody again, but at Willamette, who techs?
You have tech as soon as you exit the racetrack right there across from the oak tree.
But see, tech there is different than at like
And there are different levels of tech. Cottage Grove's
weight
tech,
is the big thing at Willamette. It seems to be
well, and same with
The
Cottage
only
Grove.
thing.
right.
No, not necessarily.
I've seen some spoiler height.
There. So Cottage Grove, you pull off the track, you go immediately to the scales. You pass they have pretty much a line drawn in the sand. You pass that line, you're DQ'd. End of story. You go to the scales, they weigh you, look over your car, and send you on your way. Banks,